Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this CID business meeting, as well as a webinar with some substantive content for you. I'm Zena Applebaum, Chair of the Competitive Intelligence Division for 2015, and your host for today's webinar. We're going to start today's webinar walking through a little bit about what's going on with the Competitive Intelligence Division. We traditionally have held our business meeting at the annual conference, but in light of some of the scheduling changes, we've decided to change the format and present that material to you here today as part of a webinar. Following which, we'll hear from Lynn, and I'll explain that in a little bit. For the rest of today, whether it's my presentation or Lynn's, if you have any questions, feel free to use the chat window on the right-hand side of your screens, where you can enter in your questions, and I will respond to them, or I will have Lynn respond to them as is appropriate. Without further ado, I wanted to thank Aurora WDC for their continued support of the Competitive Intelligence Division and of our webinar series, and I'll talk a little bit more about them as we go through our business meeting content. So without much more, I'll get into that. So I am Zena Applebaum, Chair of the CI Division for 2015. For those of you that are unfamiliar with how SLA generally works, I thought it was a good idea to sort of put up a slide here on the SLA Governance Structure. Many of us know that we're part of this division, but may not understand how that filters into the bigger, broader picture of SLA. And so there is the SLA Board of Directors and their executive officers. There are staff in the SLA office, and then there are various divisions and cabinets. And of course, the CID is one of the divisions, and there are also chapters that are local. And we filter through all of that. So many of you will be members of multiple divisions as well as chapters. A little bit about the Competitive Intelligence Division. This division was started primarily to involve people in SLA who support competitive intelligence in their organizations or are interested in learning more about CI. It's becoming an essential skill for all of SLA members as we look to adding value within our organizations, and CI lends itself very nicely to be able to providing people with an opportunity to do that. The CI division allows for us to present content to you and to provide members who are looking to do something a little bit different with their library background an opportunity to do so. We have about 650 members, give or take. It's highly volunteer dependent. Everything that we do is based on the amazing work of our volunteers, and you'll see who some of those are in a moment. It's a profitable division. We have great support from business partners like Aurora, like Benzema, Commentelli, and some others. We have significant cash reserves, which means that we can afford to put on terrific programming for all of our members. And our board does meet monthly to make sure that we're both providing the content that our members need, programming appropriately for our members, but also maintaining those financial reserves. The value to you as members is that we do offer free webinars like the one you're going to hear later today from Lynn. We also have a website. We have a LinkedIn group. For those of you that are not currently involved, you can join that LinkedIn group. We do like to do a fair bit around recognition and travel grants and things like that for our division members. We know sometimes in the cost-cutting measures, people don't get to attend as many events as they would like to, and so we like to give out awards and grants to help people, and I'll get into some of what we did in 2015 in that regard. We do have mentors and mentees, and we're always looking to help connect people who are looking to grow in their careers or to help other people grow in their careers. We present speaking and presenting opportunities both at the annual conference and in webinars, and we'll also provide content to you. So any of you that are of local chapter involvement that are looking for content, we can pair you with people within our community who are looking to provide that content. As I mentioned, there's also tons of volunteer opportunities within the division, and of course, our vendor alliance are our sponsorship partners, without whom we could not do the things that we do, and we could not provide the content that we provide. So two of the strongest points is our vendor alliance and our volunteer opportunities. So the reporting structure in 2015, I am the chair. With me, Lynn, who will be presenting to you in a little bit, as our chair-elect, and Michael Bernacci is our past chair. Fred Wardelees is our secretary. Cindy Romaine is our head of communications and PR, the person who bombards you with wonderful messages to sign up to these webinars. Laura Bray is our head of membership. And she's also planning our 2016 conference, and onwards and offwards. So there's lots of people who are involved. And as I said, all of these people are volunteers making this division run. So thank you to all of them. Without all of you, we could not make the things that we do happen. And in terms of the things that we do, here, let me share some highlights with you from 2015. In 2015, we had a strong presence at the Leadership Summit. I believe we had 5 members of our division at the Leadership Summit. We also had the opportunity to get one of our vendor partners, Aurora WDC, in front of the entire leadership, where Intel Collab membership was presented to leaders as well as SLA members. In terms of our volunteerism and our awards and stipends, we were able to provide more than 5 people this year with bursaries and other awards to actually attend the annual conference, which I think is a huge feather in our cap, and it talks again to our financial stability, our recognition of volunteers, and our strong support from our vendors, that we're able to provide stipends of over $1,000 per person to attend the conference. We do 10 months of free webinar content, of which today will be one with Lynn. In addition, in 2015, we were able to cooperate with ICI and the Institute for Competitive Intelligence based in Germany and provide discounted rates to their conference or their summit to anybody in Europe who wanted to go. We were also able to do a cooperation with the Council of CI Fellows and with the Intel Collab, where we'll be sharing content and collaborate with them in better ways. CI Division was able to present at the SLA annual one-day conference that happened this past September. And going forward in 2016, we are able to present 2 CLEs and a full slate of programming. So the division is quite active, has been quite active in 2015, and will be moving into 2016 as well. As I said, we've had almost $15,000 in vendor partner contributions, which helped cover essentially our costs to run our annual conference. We spent more than $3,000 in member benefits. I think that number is actually quite higher than that. And we've had excellent attendance and feedback for our session and our courses. Our speakers regularly get well over 4 out of 5 or even higher in all of the events that we do. Each year we have a CI networking event at the annual conference, which brings in more than 30 attendees in 2015. And what was amazing is that in this particular year, we had a non-SLA member come specifically to our event to look to hire somebody who was in CI. So it shows you the depth and breadth of the people that we attract and how we are able to provide our members with that value-added outlook into the market. The 2 CEs, the 2 continuing education courses that we provided at the annual conference, had the greatest number of registrants of all of the courses, and we had excellent feedback for both. We had a session on going beyond basics, and we had a session on using the internet as an investigative research tool, one of which will be brought back in 2016, the other of which we have presented for a couple of years now, and it was time to kind of give that one a break for at least a year. Coming up, there will be a November webinar, so look for that. We're still in the works and sorting that out, but I promise it will be a good one. You will see a board call for nominations if you haven't already. We're looking for a chair-elect, a secretary, and a vendor relations position. We're also looking for a 2017 conference chair. So if any of you on the line are interested, please do get in touch with me and let me know, and I'll be happy to put you in touch with the right people. In 2016, of course, we'll have a full slate of programming at the annual conference, and I'll give you a little sneak peek of what that's going to look like in a moment. One of the things we're also planning for 2016, hopefully, is an experts guide where we will present to you a portfolio of everybody in our division who is available to you as content providers, whether it be for local chapter events, for speaking opportunities at your annual conferences for other divisions and other chapters. But we think it's important, both for our membership and for the greater SLA membership, to know who's within our division that we can share out into the world. And we're also talking about doing some new awards for 2016, whether those are recognition awards or stipends to attend annual conference or other events. We are looking to highlight more of our membership and what our members are up to. So look for those coming in 2016 as well. Our 2016 highlights for the conferences, as I said, we're going to bring back Julie Clegg. She'll be talking about ethical social media investigations. We'll also have John McGonigal talking about do-it-yourself CI, sources, strategies, and techniques. Amazing for those of you that are also AAIP members, or for those of you that are sole practitioners within your organizations that are looking for additional ways to do-it-yourself CI. We're going to have 9 approved sessions, whether they are CI sessions or co-sponsored sessions. We'll be doing one on integrating CRM, client relationship management, into your corporate research. Information as product, HR and CI integration, and lots of other topics that you can read here on the slide. I don't need to read for you. The interesting thing is that we're going beyond the basic content for 2016, and we're providing you with some additional deeper dives into the CI world. We're also going to do 3 quick takes this year instead of 2 quick takes. One of the quick takes we're going to be looking at is top 10 mistakes CI practitioners make in the workplace. If anybody out there on the line today would be interested in providing content for that, do get in touch with me or with Laura Bray, our 2016 conference chair, and we can talk about how you can get involved in providing content for that session. Our 2016 open house. So in the past, some of you may remember we had done a great Pachakacha tournament. We're going to bring it back, and we're bringing it back again with the help of Aurora WDC. And it'll be a pro-am competition, so we'll have our professionals against our amateurs. For those of you that don't know what a PK is or a Pachakacha, it's 20 slides in 20 seconds, 6 minutes total, 6 minutes 40 seconds in all. So each presentation is under 7 minutes, and they are highly, highly, highly graphic representations. So the idea is that each of your slides have a ton of graphic on them to help your audience understand what you're saying at a very quick glance. Again, it's sponsored by Aurora WDC, and we'd like to thank them for their generous support. One of the things those of you on the line may want to look into is the First Light product by Aurora WDC, and there's a link there for you. It's probably one of the things that Aurora has to offer that can help you immediately add value to your organizations and within your organizations. So that is our open house, and look for it. It is an amazing, amazing event that brings together, like I said, people both from the market locally in Philadelphia, as well as people at the conference who are interested in CI, and it's always the highlight, almost as good as the IT dance party. So how can you get involved? Join us for our monthly webinars, as you all have been doing. Support chapter meetings with CI content. Anybody who's looking to volunteer, whether it be at a board level or just for the annual conference, please do let me know, and you can reach out to me. There's my contact information, and on Twitter as well as at ZAppleCI if you're interested. I know, though, that I haven't seen any questions come in, so I can assume that most of you are actually here to hear from Lynn and what to do and how to answer to give them everything they want when they want it in an hour and not to freak out. We all get those requests, last minute, off the cuff research requests, always with little information and always in a rush, usually for someone high up in the company who's running for a plane and will be incommunicado for 6 hours. So Lynn presented this information at SLA 2015 as a quick take. We only gave her 15 minutes. Today we're going to give her half an hour to 45, depending on the number of questions that we get. For those of you who don't know, Lynn, as I said, is the chair-elect for 2016. Lynn is an information professional with highly refined skills in seeking out all types of business and marketing research. Her market intelligence firm, Outside Knowledge, provides research, insights, and analysis for her clients in a variety of industries. She's the chair-elect of the SLA CID and was the 2014 Outstanding New Leader Award winner. Additionally, she's an active member of the AAIP and Free Print contributor. So, Lynn, I'm going to hand it over to you now. And again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to use the message box, and I will forward those questions on to Lynn. Thanks very much, and Lynn, it's all yours.
Lynn, you may be on mute.
How's that? Am I there now?
We are here.
Can you hear me now? Okay, yes. Sweet. Okay, so here we go. This quick take that I presented in June at SLA was kind of a phenomenal success, and if I do say so myself, We had standing room only. People were sitting on the floor, and it was really fun to do this. So luckily, in this space, you all, I'm assuming, are sitting in a chair. But if you want to sit on the floor to get that full SLA 2015 experience, feel free to do that. This quick take stems from my my experience with the banking industry in Oman. I had a client who was invited by a sheikh to a roundtable on banking issues and trends in Oman, and he had to leave very quickly to get there. But the problem was that he understood the banking stuff, so he could easily talk about that. But Oman, he wasn't even sure where it was. So I needed to give him a really quick overview of where Oman was and what they were doing in the banking industry there. And of course, he needed it in an hour before he left for his plane. So these tips that I'm going to give you are what I've learned with those freaked out situations. So here we go. My first, let's see if it will change now. Okay, tip 1, don't panic. You can do this, but you need to stop, take a breath, organize your thoughts, make some notes, but whatever you do, don't go into a search panicked, because then you're going to be flying all over the place and not really focusing in on the most important information that your client needs. So trust yourself, and then take another breath, and then begin. Tip number 2, they don't really want everything. They say they do, but you know that they don't. What they want is the best and the shortest amount of information, and they trust you to make those decisions. They know you. They know your skills. They want your help. Tip number 3, know your internal clients. This goes back to the trust your clients have in you. If you spend the time to get to know all of your clients, know their style, know how they consume information, know their clients. So when these kind of rush requests come in, you already have an understanding of what your client is going to need to know. If you do all of that pre-work, continuing pre-work, this is going to be easy peasy. Tip 4, use the resources you have on hand. Whenever you start a search, you always pretty much have an idea of, okay, this database or this resource, this is where I'm going to go first. You know what you have. So you know that if you have a request on the banking industry, well, you're going to go to that database and not the database that has medical information. So you already know what resources you have at hand, and start there, and you know you'll at least get a good overview. Tip number 5, figure out what's most needed. Is this an industry issue? Is this a company overview? A country overview? In my case, my client needed some geography lessons and some industry trends specific to the Middle East region. Now, here's one of my secret sauce tips. And so when you're doing a fast overview research project, always add the word trends to your keyword search string. You'll be amazed at the top of mind results you get. It's a very simple thing. Data, analytics, trends, and boom, top of mind research. Tip number 6, break it down into manageable pieces. Give each piece of the question a set amount of time, but always make sure to allow enough time to package what you find into your deliverables. Because without that added insight, You're just giving some data points to your clients. Now, some clients really just want that, but really to give added value to your deliverable, make sure you leave at least enough time to give even a paragraph, a couple of bullet points, which leads me to tip number 7. Keep it to 3 pages or less. This is key. Use graphics, charts, maps, tables. Your client should be able to absorb the content easily and be able to locate the must-know points immediately. Heck, I even label a section of my template with things you must know and then toss in a couple of bullet points. Tip number 8, be flexible with a template. I know this isn't always possible, but if you know you get these kinds of requests often, it's worth spending some time developing a few different versions, and it also will help you focus your searches. I have one that covers companies and countries and industries. They're pre-done with sections, and I can mix and match as needed. The company template is usually the easiest to work with, because there you need to do basic information about where the company is, what their industry is, maybe some top-line financials, which are often found on their company's websites in their investor relations area. Throw a couple of charts in there and a couple of news headlines, most recent news headlines, and presto, you've got a really good high-level overview of a company. So tip 9, this one is that some resources can already do this for you. I have to give a little caveat that I've only used the Factiva option. So my suggestion is, if you have a resource like one of these, contact your vendor rep and see if they've got the capability to build these customized reports within them. And with the Factiva option, I was able to just drill down, search for the company, and then build a custom report from there, which was really helpful on these emergency requests. Tip number 10. This one is kind of one of my favorites, actually. If all else fails, do a Google file type search. Some of the large consulting companies and think tanks do a lot of research, and they publish it on their websites, available for your reading pleasure. When big data started being talked about in the regular news media back in the 2011-2012 range, the report that most frequently was referred back to was this McKinsey Institute Big Data report. They were the ones that were talking about it, writing about it, researching it, and so you can really get a great amount of research that's authoritative and useful, and most of these reports are put together so that they're really easy to digest and have lots of graphics, which is very helpful. So sometimes, depending on the request, I'll sometimes kick off my search just doing this. You can also do a Google file type search with XLS as well as PowerPoint, and it's really handy, and you can get some really great industry information. So that brings us to our recap. First of all, don't panic. That doesn't help you. So take a breath. Get started with a calm, clear mind. And know that they really don't want everything. Know your internal clients. Use the resources you have at hand. Figure out what is most needed. Break it down into manageable pieces. Keep it flexible with a template. Keep it to 3 pages or less. And use resources that may be able to build this for you. If all else fails, do a Google file type search. And my 11th bonus tip for you today is, if all of those things fail, call an information professional. We're always here to help.
Awesome.
Thanks a bunch. Yep. So I'm happy to take any questions if anybody's got any. And so that's
great.
Do we have any yet?
So, well, before we get to the questions, I do have a couple. I just wanted to point out a couple of things. Number one, this presentation is perfectly, for any of you that are interested in the Pachakacha, Lynn's presentation perfectly demonstrates the high reliance on visuals. Every single one of her slides had a great visual up there. So that's very in line with Pachakacha and the kind of thing that we're looking for our open house event in 2016. The other thing I wanted to point out, because you walked right into it, Lynn, and it's an awesome opportunity for us and for our vendor partner on slide 9 or on tip 9, where you talk about using sources that you already have. One of the great things you can do is use Aurora's First Light for those of you that are looking for aggregation platforms. You can use Aurora's First Light service to aggregate content and then push out newsletters. Yeah, so that makes it really easy for people if they have only a few minutes to pull things together. Sometimes an aggregation platform can really help with that as well. On to our questions. So again, I do have a couple, but just a reminder to people if they wanted to put them in, use the right-hand panel, type in your questions, and then we'll be good to go. A note from our convener as well about more on the Pachakacha is available at YouTube, and there's a link up to YouTube there as well if you wanted to watch it. Question for you around keeping things to 3 pages. How do you do that with so much information available?
You really have to understand what's, like I said, what's most needed. And I know that one of my problems is that I want to give you everything. I want to research everything until I can't do it anymore. But you have to learn how to stop, and you have to learn how to recognize that this is the end, this is all I can do, this is all that my client will be able to digest. That's the key. If they're running and they're doing something, they want to look at something and say, okay, I understand the question, I understand the answer, here's some sources, here, this is what I've got. And it really is about saying stop and not going after. One thing that you can do if you do end up having a lot of extra material and extra resources, then put it into an addendum or send them a zip file or something like that, that if they do have more time, they can dig into it. But I've found that 3 pages is actually a lot if you're using it carefully.
Okay, great to know. A bunch of questions here with regards to the template. So I'm going to sort of ask them as a collective and then let you unpack it. People want to know if you can show a sample template. They also want to know if you have any sites or any sites that they can go to see what templates would look like or other types of requests.
Let's see, I could email people. If they wanted to email me, I could email them some templates. That would probably be easiest than right now digging through my computer. So I'd be happy to do that. And then as far as other sites with templates, I just built mine off of some of the Microsoft Word templates and then just play around with them and move things. But as far as other research requests, samples of research requests, that's a good question. I can't think of any sites, but again, I'd be happy to talk about any that I've had. I've had a quick request about how do millennials feel about cleavage. That was an interesting one. That was I worked for a consumer marketing firm, and we had a large lingerie client, and they wanted some research and insights into how millennials feel about cleavage. So that was one of the ones that I panicked and said, how in the hell am I going to figure this out? Ended up doing a lot of research into body image which was interesting, and was able to give them at least not specific to that exact question, and that's sometimes the way you have to do it. You have to kind of build a story around the specific question if there isn't any research available.
That's a great tip. It's about reframing the question if you can't find the right answer.
Answer, yep.
That's great. There's a question here about if you have a new client that you don't know very well, do you refuse quick turnaround projects?
As a matter of fact, no. I just got a quick turnaround project on Wednesday from a brand new client who's probably going to be a continuing client, and so I was very willing to undertake the project for them with a 24 to 36 hour turnaround, which is sometimes more. I mean, that's obviously more than in an hour, but I have not worked with this client before, and it's a really a kind of a difficult request. But again, doing the file type PDF search has made it really helpful. I've found a lot of really great government documentation that's contributing to this request. So for me, I'm pretty much always willing to jump in and help. But for me in my own company, I definitely charge a little bit extra for a fast turnaround.
Which, as a consultant, you have the ability to do. For those of us
to do, yep. And internally, that's a difficult one. So my suggestion, if you're working in an organization and you get a lot of quick turnaround requests, in a downtime or a quieter time, it's worth talking with your clients and talking about how can we prevent so many of these. You know, is there something that we should have on hand already? You know, should we have some already done reports, that kind of thing. So because quick turnarounds, they happen, but it's always good to be able to head them off at the pass.
Thank you for that. You mentioned that you use the word trends when you're looking for file types or when you're doing a Google search and enter trends. Do you still try to validate your trends or data points with multiple sources?
I do. And really, when you use the word trends, it will help give you more recent research or news. So if you're using trends, and my example with the McKinsey report, big data, McKinsey is writing about it, Deloitte's writing about it, Capgemini is writing about it, you know. So you know that if these big think tanks are researching and writing about it, then you know that this is something. So that would be my suggestion with the word trends. It just it adds some depth to the search and brings up more sort of top of mind topics.
We mentioned briefly about reframing the question. When you go to look at reframing the question, do you ever address the lack of available research or data? When you use the cleavage example, you couldn't find that, but you did something about body image. Do you ever address the fact that you couldn't find that data?
Oh, yes. Absolutely, absolutely. I have a client right now that has some very granular questions about the medical device industry and a very specific medical device. And I know from my experience and now with the research that I'm doing for them that we're just not going to get there. We're just not. And so I'm working with them to reframe and to look at, well, if we can't get this information, is there something that's kind of similar that might be out there? So yeah, and sometimes you can look at a research question and say, oh yeah, never going to happen. So it's always best to go right back to your client and really talk through the research request more in depth. And that comes with experience, really.
Yeah, I would imagine in cases like that, what ends up happening is they rush requests and ends up taking on a longer lead time or a longer, can you talk to that at all about how you recalibrate your timing?
Yep. For a rush request that really is not going to be able to be done in an hour or in a short amount of time, really trying to do sort of a very, very, very high level, a couple of newspaper articles, a couple of journal articles, just something really, really, really broad helps to then help drive the granularity down, and really then you can work with your client to figure out, okay, if someone's talking about this or researching this, but they're not about this, then let's figure out where that disconnect is and what goes on in between, and see if we can come to a common ground of, is this going to really answer your question? And if it's not, then if you really want to know this, then that's a whole custom research project, and that moves on. That means there's only so much secondary research out there on topics. So that's where our friends who do custom research come in handy.
Yeah, definitely. I think some of those custom research companies and even some of the syndicated research that you can just buy off the shelf is sometimes handy in those situations.
Yep, exactly. And some of those are great for filling in gaps that you might have, as some of those off-the-shelf reports.
Right. There's that old saying that it can't be fast and cheap and good. So sometimes when you need something fast, you got to pay the price.
Yep. Exactly.
Question for you: when you do get yourself and you find yourself in a time crunch, what are the first 5 resources you go to?
Oh, well, when I was working for a big organization, my first 5 usually were, we subscribed to a lot of analyst research, Ovum, Euromonitor, Gartner, Forrester, those kinds of things. So depending on the industry, I would choose accordingly. If it was, technology or big data, it was instantly to Gartner. Banking was Tower Group. So that kind of thing. Now that I'm in my individual practice and I don't have access to all of those large-scale research sources, I have been using DuckDuckGo as a search engine, as well as Google, and those are have been great places to start. I do have some access to some of those purchased report options too. I also use Reprints Desk. They're really useful for article retrieval. So, and as far as other go-to sources that I use primarily, yeah, that's about it. And if I can get access to another database, then I do. Another one, Report Linker is handy and useful.
You mentioned that now that you're no longer with a big organization, the resources that you have at your fingertips are different. Can you tell? I mean, you have a great perspective in that you've worked in the big organizations and now you're sort of out on your own. Talk about the difference in approach you would take, or the difference in approach some of the people who are looking to bring on new clients would take when getting those rush requests, in-house versus on your own.
Okay. In-house, obviously you're going to be using the resources that you've already subscribed to. And as an individual info pro, what has helped me tremendously, and I'm going to just tout AIIP here for a moment, because if you're a solo practitioner, the support and resources you have available with AIIP is tremendous, and as well as SLA too. There's so many contacts that you can tap in SLA to help you out with some of these things. Yeah, having access to a wide variety of resources in a lot of different industries, depending on if you're just a medical device company, then you're really going to want to have resources that are based for medical stuff. And did that quite answer your question?
I think so. I mean, reach out to your network is basically one of the biggest.
Yeah, reaching out to your network is really the way to go in any way. I had a request once at my former company, and I could not find anything, and I knew that the information existed, and it was going to be a government source. And I'm here in Minneapolis, and we have a Federal Reserve Bank, and I called the Federal Reserve Library here in town and talked to their librarian, because it's like, I know this exists, but I cannot find it. And sure enough, she called me back in a couple hours and said, here you go. So know your network, and if you know your resources, you'll be able to reach out quickly.
It's like the good ILL in action, right?
Right, exactly.
Minus the book, of course.
Right, exactly.
So we talk about reaching out to your network. How does social media and using social media play into your research?
Social media is tremendous. Yeah, it's tremendous. And I use Twitter. You can follow me at Knowledge Mama. And what I do is I look for experts in industries that I work within, and with clients within, and I follow them. When I was working for a financial tech services company, I was following anybody who was renowned in the big data analytics field on Twitter, and any companies that were doing research on them, like McKinsey, and anyone who had that analytics practice within their organization. And I just follow them and keep them on a list, and their insights and tweets, to whether it was to an article or a blog post or research, was invaluable at times when I really couldn't find anything anywhere else. Like, oh, I'm going to check here, and then, hey, look at this. I think that when I was in graduate school, I think I had a professor who called that pearl growing, where you look at one thing and then it leads to another, and then it leads to another, and that. So I use Twitter extensively for that. And now with LinkedIn, there's so much more content, original content that people are posting, and that's been a really great boost too.
I love that analogy of the pearl growing.
Yeah. And the other thing too that is, I'm not sure how I feel about this, but I do occasionally use Wikipedia, but I never use the actual Wikipedia article. I always go to the references down at the very bottom, because those are usually where you can find the actual information that's actually real and verifiable. So I don't do it often, but sometimes it's a good place to get a perspective.
Yeah, it's a good place to start in any event,
Yep.
So yeah, Wikipedia, Google, all these things kind of get a bad rap, but the reality is
they're tools.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And certainly when you don't have a lot of time, they're quick tools that, yes, your client could go and use Wikipedia or Google too, but librarians and info pros have the tools to determine what sources and to validate those sources as well. So it's not just that you're going to use them. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, you're not going to use Joe Schmo's, blog post, but you're going to use, an authoritative person's blog post. So.
Right. Absolutely. If there are any further questions, I encourage people to put them into the box now, because we've run out of formal questions at this point, but I'll give people another minute or so to answer any questions. if there are no further questions, we'll give you back a few minutes of your day. I did want to thank Aurora, WDC, one more time for their support of the CID and of our webinar series. We will be hosting another substantive webinar in November. We'll look for details on that. We're just kind of sorting that out. And if there is nothing else, then I bid you all adieu. Have a great day, and thanks for joining us. And thank you, Lynn, for your content.
Yep, thanks everybody, and feel free to reach out if you've got any further questions.